At this point, I think it's safe to assume who's going to win the Oscar, but I do have a few opinions of my own. Hello everybody and welcome back to my YouTube channel. In this video, I will be ranking the Best Picture nominees for the 2026 Academy Awards. Now, for those of you who don't know, the Academy doesn't vote on the Best Picture just by checking off whatever film they want to win as Best Picture. What they do is something called a preferential ballot. It's basically a ranking system. They go through the list of nominees and then they would rank them 1 through 10. 10 being their least favorite and 1 being, well, whatever movie they want to give the award to. Now, I happen to know there are certain members of the Academy that don't actually watch all the nominees, which kind of bothers me because, I mean, when you're part of a prestigious group like the Academy and you have the privilege of giving out an award with such prestige, you would think you would have more respect for the artist and watch every single nominee so that you can objectively honor the best film. Now, as for me, I did manage to watch every single nominee, and even though I am not a member of the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences, I was wondering, how would I rank the Best Picture nominees if I were able to vote? And this is what I came up with. Starting at number 10, and I know I'm going to get a lot of hate for this because when this movie came out, it received a ton of love. And that is Frankenstein, directed by Guillermo del Toro. Now, before you say anything, I love Guillermo del Toro. I think he is a masterful filmmaker. He is a one-of-a-kind original, and I loved some of his films very much. Pinocchio, in particular, was my favorite film of 2022, so I happen to have a lot of respect for the guy. However, Frankenstein just didn't do it for me. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's a beautiful film. It's beautifully shot. The costume designs, the hair and makeup, the production design, those things I think are gonna walk away with Oscars. And I'm also glad that Jacob Elordi got nominated for his portrayal as the monster, but there were a lot of changes made from the book that I didn't necessarily agree with, and I felt like Del Toro was repeating himself with the father-son trope with Dr. Frankenstein and the monster. I mean, he used that trope in Pinocchio and it worked very well, but I don't think it worked as well in this movie. And that's why it's my number 10 pick. My number 9 pick is Marty Supreme, another film that was very well liked within the film industry. And I will admit, I think this is a very well-made film. It's very well directed. I like the pacing and the acting. Timothée Chalamet, I mean, if he ends up winning Best Actor at the Oscars, I won't be upset. However, what I didn't like about this film is that midway through the film, it just got very repetitive, and I felt like the director really wallowed in the chaos that he was creating for these characters. And at a certain point, I felt like the film was dragging and straying off the whole point of the movie. I doubt that I'm going to be rewatching this film anytime soon. And at number 8, I have The Secret Agent. This is one of 2 international feature films that made it into the Best Picture lineup. And in my opinion, this is my least favorite of the 2. It's a very sophisticated film that is very well written, very well acted. However, I don't think that it's as accessible to a wide range of audience members. And more on that later, but next, let's move on to my number 7 pick, and I know I'm gonna get a lot of flack for this because out of all the nominees, this was probably the most popular in film circles, and that movie is One Battle After Another. Now, here's where I stand with that movie. Paul Thomas Anderson is a great director and it shows in this movie. However, I do think that that film was a little overrated. A lot of people have been crowning this film as a masterpiece, that it's not only the best film of the year, but it's the best film of the decade. Respectfully, I disagree. I do believe that Paul Thomas Anderson is in fact going to win Best Director, and he definitely deserves it. But if this movie wins Best Picture, I will forever regard the 2026 Oscars as the departed year for Paul Thomas Anderson. And what I mean by that is, Martin Scorsese, another prolific filmmaker, had been nominated many times before, but he didn't win an Oscar until he directed the 2006 film The Departed. And many years after that win, people still regard that win as a career Oscar. Not necessarily his masterpiece, but it was just one of those moments where this guy hadn't won an Oscar before, but if you were going to give him one eventually, better you do it now. And that's kind of how I feel with Paul Thomas Anderson right now. I mean, he should have won one a long time ago, and I wish he had won one for either Phantom Thread or Licorice Pizza, but this is probably his best chance. And at number 6, I have Bugonia. Now, Yorgos Lanthimos has a knack for making a lot of strange movies, and this is no exception, but I fully enjoyed this movie, particularly when it comes to the scenes between Jesse Plemons and Emma Stone. Now, I'm sorry that Jesse Plemons didn't get nominated for Best Actor for this film, because I think he delivered a career best performance with this film. And Emma Stone, I mean, this woman just gets better with every movie. Her and Yorgos Lanthimos making a movie together is just a match made in heaven. And number 5, I have Train Dreams. I've already seen this film 3 times, and every time I watch this film, I find it so deeply moving and thought-provoking. I mean, this is the kind of film that really makes you think about life and what your purpose is, and what happens when you don't know what that purpose is, or what if you never find that purpose? How do you go on living, especially in the face of tragedy? And I thought for sure that Joel Edgerton was going to get his first nomination for Best Actor, but you know, this is such a super underrated film, and I'm just glad that the Academy managed to nominate it for Best Picture. Number 4, I have F1. Now, when the nominations were announced, I noticed that there was a lot of negative reactions to this particular nomination. I mean, I couldn't understand why. I mean, come on, people, you gotta add at least one crowd pleaser to the mix. Otherwise, you do run the risk of having the Academy appear to be exactly what a lot of people accuse the Academy of being: out of touch with reality. And a lot of people enjoyed this film. Now, maybe a lot of film buffs don't necessarily agree with the nomination because it felt formulaic. However, this was made by the same guy who made Top Gun: Maverick. The proficiency in that film was also brought into F1. So what's the problem? And this is exactly the type of movie that you go to the movie theater to get the full experience. And after all, the Academy is all about preserving the theater-going experience. And at number 3, I have Sentimental Value, the second of 2 foreign language films to be nominated for Best Picture. And in my opinion, I think that this is the best of the bunch. This is an extremely well-written family drama that touches up on generational trauma very well. And Stellan Skarsgård delivers a stellar performance, but I loved every single performance in this film. And as I mentioned in my top 10 video, this is still probably my favorite script of the year. Number 2, Sinners. I can see why a lot of people were raving about this film. Out of all the films that were hyped up this season, I feel like this movie is genuinely warranted. And it definitely feels very original, and I really liked Ryan Coogler's script. If anything else, this guy definitely deserves Best Original Screenplay. And I feel like it has a massive appeal to a wide range of audiences. And it also felt like this film really had something to say in a very unique way. Now, if you've watched my top 10 video, you will notice that it wasn't necessarily on my top 10, but I did give it an honorable mention. And some of you may be wondering, why? Well, objectively speaking, I think that Sinners is very unique and it definitely deserves a lot of recognition. It was just a genre that I don't particularly gravitate to. But if you were to ask me if I like horror, I will tell you always that I like a good horror film. And this film is a great film. And had it not been for my number 1 pick, I think it does deserve to win Best Picture. However, my number 1 pick is something totally different, and that is Hamnet, directed by Chloe Zhao, starring Jessie Buckley and Paul Mescal. This film just touched me on an emotional level that no other film has ever achieved before. Not this year, not in my whole life. This is a film about a family going through grief. And it is not an easy film to watch. I mean, William Shakespeare, who this film is centered on, really understood human emotions. And I think the director of this film, Chloe Zhao, also understands human beings as well. In my opinion, I feel like this film really leaves you with a sense of hope in humanity rather than just despair and pessimism. It really demonstrates how powerful storytelling can be and how one movie can gather an audience together to understand the human experience even better. So that is my ranking of the nominees for the Best Picture of 2025. Who will win? We'll find out. Thank you so much for watching my video, ladies and gentlemen. If you like this video, be sure to subscribe to my channel, and I hope to see you again next time.